All righty. Hello, hello, hello. What was that? Mika, get away from there. God. Okay. Where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Oh, where'd it go? Okay, there. Pulled up the wrong chart. Okay. Okay. Perfect. All right. First of the night. So let's prop this up. Hey, Mika. All right. Let me go. Let me move this here. Oh, put this camera on. It's webcam. Okay. Perfect. Clock. All right. Clock. Share screen. Okay. I'm going to get in full meditation mode. Where are my magical crystals? Right here and right here. Okay. So, um, interesting. Leo Sun, Virgo Moon, South Node with the Sun, first house with the rising, Mercury rising. Ooh, I don't see that very often. So a lot is in this kind of Cancer Leo area, and then the Moon's in Virgo, conjunction midheaven, and the nodal axis 1728 or 11.5. Okay. So no air in your chart. You've got a lot of first house slash 12th house, depending if you use Placidus or whole sign. Either way, it's a lot of Leo. So it's kind of there's a bit of a challenge here from a karmic perspective. Your South Node, which is your past life tendency, and it's kind of like there's a little bit of been there, done that, right? So to have your South Node with your ascendant and your sun is, it's challenging, right? Because the South Node is really, like it's basically like you're trying to use the South Node to move away from to move towards the North Node. And we're both born in 1990, so I also have the same South Node as you in Leo, and I'm also Leo rising. But yeah, so I can definitely speak on that from personal experience and just from a lot of experience with clients. And when you're trying to move towards, and we also yeah, we have the same, that our South Node's in the same sign and house, so it's very, yeah. And then squares, you've got square Mars. Ooh, okay, and Mars, yeah. So the way I kind of look at that is there could be there's something from past incarnations where you didn't act um like you're really here to truly discover your authentic self. Um, and what I mean by that is the idea of what is high and what is low Leo is extremely important for you. Um, with the South Node in Leo going North Node in Aquarius, we get the idea that you are trying to, like I always call it, trying to move away from the me towards the we, right? And it can be kind of difficult sometimes for people with this South Node because there can be past life memories of greatness. Leo is the creator. It is the, it's the star, right? So a lot of people I've noticed that have South Node in Leo, they it's not like I'm not saying it's spoiled, right? But it's almost like they kind of there can be a tendency to expect greatness from yourself, right? Um, me as an example, and I don't like talking about myself only when it's very necessary, but I have what 30 something thousand followers, which to some people that sounds like something, but to me it feels like not that I judge my success or my life on followers like that at all, but like to me, I literally do not think that's I feel like that's nothing. Like not like in a bad way. I just, you know, it's just it's from past lives of having been very, very famous and renowned and whatever, in whatever it is. So when you have that in the first house, you have, a lot of people come into this incarnation, right? And there's difficulty for them learning to take for themselves, right? Some people have that karmic lesson. I see it a good amount with a lot of my clients, right? Where it's like you're allowed, like, you're supposed I'll tell people like, you're supposed to be selfish, right? You're supposed to have um strong boundaries. So someone with a South Node Leo in the first house would have already learned that lesson. Um, but at the same time, because you have your ascendant and your sun, and then your Mars is square. To me, it's showing that you acted in a way karmically, right? So we're not dealing with just like one lifetime here, right? Um, we're dealing with the karma of the lifetimes that you're trying to learn lessons based off of, right? So the Leo energy often I see in the first house is about me, right? It's about the self. So the seventh house slash sixth in Placidus, right? It's exactly what I have. It's crazy. But basically, like, the lesson is, okay, how can I how can I create a life that's still based on the high, the inner child and the high authentic self-expression, right? Of Leo. Because Leo at its core is about authentic self-expression. So it's how can I create a life where I still learn about myself through the lens of creativity, right? And whatever that means to you. But in doing so, I learn about compromise, right? Um, so you'll be a naturally independent person, right? Someone who's able to really, really go towards what they want in life. And you can be very inspirational to others, right? You can be very, very inspirational, very good leader. But what you're trying to balance out is that innate leadership and these talents that you've built that might even it might not be so obvious to you but very obvious to others, right? um like one of the beauties of having all this Leo energy is that Leo is passion, right? So people who have Leo, like they can be very passionate about things, you know. Oftentimes I run into people who really show me um that even just like really like let's say you're passionate about music, you're passionate about a certain type of music, and you're passionate about working out and about your craft, whatever, art, spirituality, whatever, like there are people that literally just like it's like they just cannot like build that passion. It is so hard. um Not Leo. Leo energy is able to do that. Now, the run-in with Leo is when we're talking about who are you doing it for? What, like, the idea behind authentic self-expression is creating based off of your true inner self. And then North Node Aquarius is you being here for others, right? You being here to take your creative abilities and your zest for life, right? To help people. So oftentimes, myself included, come to think of it, but so many South Node Leos that I speak to, they have trouble. They have trouble when they do things from the ego, right? When they, for example, easy example. I'll go camera a little bit. Okay, so, easy example, right? So like if you are a content creator, right? If you're making YouTube videos, fuck, my allergies are bad. Let me get some eye drops in it. Not really, like I'm smoking some shit or something. Um, so if you are a content creator, right? Making videos that the sole purpose is likes, right? That's low vibe Leo because that's being done for external validation. High vibe Leo is getting deep into yourself and through your creative expression, right? And it's not just, like my definition for creativity can be anything. It could, like, I define creativity as your greatest creation is your life. Your greatest creation is like figuring out who you are, which that's what Leo is about. It's finding your passion through experimenting, right? Um, sorry. So it's only like the real beauty of Leo is the one of the beauties of Leo South Node and all this Leo supporting Leo energy is being able to inspire other people, and it's fun being having a lot of Leo. It's very fun. It's very fun being Leo, right? Okay. My eyes are gonna look like I'm crying for a little bit, but yeah. Um, yeah, so like there's a lot of fun with being a Leo. And in the first house, sometimes Leo South Node first house, there it's actually very interesting because you have exactly what I have, right? So in Placidus, we both have 12th house Leo South nodes, and in whole sign we have first house. And that makes the North Node in sixth in Placidus and seventh in whole sign. And I want to kind of explain both because for me, both make perfect sense, right? Um, so on one end, there's the idea of being kind of like this mystical, like this real Leo kind of energy, but it's very behind closed doors. Um, it could even be like someone who's like in a high, kind of like a ruler behind the closed doors, like political type stuff, or it could be someone who's like, a magician, but they do everything kind of, um, you know, behind closed doors, like I said, hidden from the world. Another one is someone who has created a habit like bad habits, because of the ego being too inflated, right? So there's a whole bunch of and it could just be, you know, also 12th house can be about being a, like being too much of a dreamer. So someone who like has all these ideas, and has all this amazing creative ability innately in your soul, but needs to have better organization and grounding in this life to really facilitate these Aquarian North Node goals, right? Which are about bringing people together and doing things for the collective, right? Always still going from thinking about the physical value of what you do to the metaphysical value. It's important. Now, first to seventh, that's more about relationships. And a first house south node in Leo would be such a creative person, such someone who's so adventurous and fiery and full of life, that they are unwilling to compromise when it comes to relationships, right? Very, very independent, but independent to a point to where in this life they're here to learn lessons around compromise, and around actually having relationships that last, fair relationships that you guys come together and um bring the best out of each other and make the world a better place. But Aquarius, and it's interesting because I always talk about the Aquarian relationship, this idea I have. Um, it could also be a very like understanding. Um, oh shit, yo, we have some crazy similarities in our charts. You also have Pluto in the IC. Woof, and it's square. Oh my god, yo, we have like similar like we're me and you are working through similar karma in this life. That's crazy. I did not okay see that you have Pluto on the IC square the node. Okay, well get ready for this. It's almost like I'm not even saying this to be dramatic. It's almost like the odds of this happening are very low. It's like almost as if like you were meant to get this reading for me to tell you about this because I literally in my book, I wrote about this past life trauma thing, and like this is like probably the thing about all astrology for myself personally that was the biggest game changer for me, right? This Pluto on the IC square the notes, but I'll get into that in a sec. So yeah, essentially it's about trying to move past um trying to move past ego, and trying to understand that like when you're still here to be a creative person, you're still here to be independent. So it's about creating relationships where you can have space, relationships where like you're using your artistic, creative, abstract thinking abilities in the context of relationship, right? But I definitely see this like kind of healer energy, just kind of like Hawkeye of your chart with your Neptune and Uranus in the sixth. But I have that as well. Also, like we have a lot in common because we're born the same year and we have the same ascendant. Um, well, mine's 11 degrees higher, but yeah. So yeah, there's a lot about serving people in this lifetime for sure. Okay, so here's what I was gonna say. I'm not gonna leave you hanging. Um, so Pluto on the IC is one of the hardest placements in astrology. Um, the IC rules our foundation, our unconscious bottom, right? It really is about our childhood. It's about what we hold. It's really about like our deep, what really runs the table. Like yeah, the moon is about that too. But if you have a planet conjunct the IC, right? I'll show you. So you see Pluto, IC. So I have to talk about myself again. I fucking hate it. I had a client tell me, I'm not gonna say who she got readings from, but it's like astrologers who charge like way more than me. They're very famous. And she's like, yeah, they literally both of them just like talk about themselves. Like everything in my chart, they related it back to me. And I was like, yo. And then the other half, they're talking about politics. like the vaccine and shit. I was just like mind blown. But the only reason I'm doing it is because we have this in common. So my whole life basically, um, with this exact same placement you have, right? I always had a lot of trauma um, show up, but there's no link between what I was showing and where it was coming from. And when I learned about astrology, I learned about how if you have Pluto on your IC, that speaks about childhood trauma, very volcanic childhood. But big but, square the south node nodal axis, right? That means that that trauma is from past life. So people, this is the ultimate placement of someone who has has decided to work on trauma that they got from potentially being, having very like traumatic endings in past lives, or being, betrayed by someone they loved, right? So um I'm curious if that resonates for you, because when I learned about this, my life changed, because I was like trying to find reason for why I was so fucked up early on. But it's like, yeah, like my in my childhood was like, it was not horrible, like, yeah, there's some issues with my dad, but we have a very good relationship, and we always did. It just, like, I don't know, it's just crazy, right? Because it's like this explained everything. So it's like a lot of times what happens is that the the childhood will be mimicking in some way the past life trauma, um but it won't fully, it usually doesn't fully explain it. So when you learn that, you realize, fuck, like, okay, this is crazy. And how you can resolve it is, by which node it hit it last before birth, which was the south node, because they moved in the opposite direction. So they moved like this way. So the south node hit it. So by doing um past life therapy, you're able to heal your soul in that way. Now, what you have and I don't have is Mars also square the node. So yeah, I just that's really, really interesting, right? But like Pluto on the IC, why it's so hard is that um it's just like a lot of shit, unconscious shit that one has to get through in their life. Um, Especially when it comes to fully maximizing their career. It's a lot of so it really makes you have to like really like have compassion for the experiences that you went through in the early stages of your life, you know? Okay. So yeah, it really is the deepest unconscious self, compulsions, motivations, and then also the urge for transformation. So yeah, it really is the ultimate skip step. And it's this real battle between soul and ego, right? And that's why a lot of people with this or difficult Pluto aspects, they struggle. It's because soul, think about that, soul versus ego. The comfort zone that might be fucking terrible, right? Like it might be a terrible comfort zone, but like being able to it's the ultimate like inner transformational placement. Now, this may sound like I'm saying like this fucking sucks. Well, guess what? Nothing sucks. And in time, I started to see how this placement is the ultimate. It's very powerful, right? Because it's like building this real unbreakable kind of resolve within yourself, And people with this, they go through a fuck ton, and like a lot. Imagine like the idea, well, probably not imagine, but like it's like the idea of going through something and not being able to fucking pinpoint what that shit is. Like that is so frustrating for a kid, especially, And then like I mean, like just having people say like, oh, you know, it's from this, Like I had people around me trying to figure out the answer and thinking it was the relationship with my dad, but it wasn't. So it's a real game changer, right? What else can I say about Pluto? So it really is. Another thing about that is it's a struggle between power and powerlessness, and that struggle has been playing out over lifetime. So lifetimes, especially the Leo South Node, right? Lifetimes where you've been in positions of royalty, power, and then ones where you're powerless. And unconsciously, even in this lifetime, it's probably played out where you feel super empowered and super strong, like Superwoman or super, and then boom, not feeling that. So yeah, it's very, very, very interesting. Um, so aside from that, there's definitely a big time need to really identify your real limitations and just really, really a lot of self honesty, like a big part of it also can be the correct usage of power. And sometimes people with this, they can have abandonment issues, and it can be really, really difficult in relationships. So it's really important to find, to really find that self-love, right? Um, and with the 12th house Venus, it can be a little challenging, and it's, opposite Neptune and Uranus. But besides that, I think that it's hard to trust people when you have this, right? Um, and it's such an important lifetime. Someone who has decided to take on this karma, fucking huge. It just shows where you're at, and it pushes you into spirituality, because this is where you can really learn about God. You can really learn about things that really push your awareness out, you know. So a lot of times with this though is that the necessary commitment to truly achieve this has been sometimes lacking in past lives. So it kind of reemphasizes that need to really honor the commitment to balance and the commitment to getting past the psychological, emotional, spiritual pain of the past, right? Really healing. So you are here to heal your karmic wounds. So how can we do that? Slash, what other clues are there? Well, the clue is the North Node, Aquarius. By you helping other people, right? That's how you help yourself. That's how you find your mystical, your values like a mystic, right? And the fact that you have these two here and this here, to me, indicates like, okay, Neptune, Uranus, six. That's big time energy about how you want to have a daily lifetime, a daily routine that shows that helps you kind of, I guess, that's unconventional, you don't want to like the whole 9 to 5 thing usually doesn't work for people who have this. And with Neptune there, it can really, really, like, the wrong type of routine can really make someone with that feel like they're going nuts. They want to have their daily life, they want to be of service in their daily life, and they want to be making a real they want to be giving back, and they want to be learning about themselves. And then the sixth house Saturn makes one very hardworking, and able to create consistency and organization in their life. So Mars is also square the nodes, right? So you've got Pluto opposite Mars, um, which is a very intense one, and they're both on angles, so they're both very strong. So with the Mars one, and to skip step, a square the nodes, that can be like unresolved anger from past lives, right? Um, so you know sometimes when there's Mars and Pluto hard aspects, it can indicate some sexual trauma or just trauma in general physical trauma in this lifetime. Um, Not always, but with this, it's definitely a very volcanic aspect, right? So this can really, like, it makes it so you have to really have, whether it's meditation, whatever grounds you, really have that in your life, because things can really boil up in your unconscious. And then that black moon Lilith and Scorpio, whew, you know, like, I know how that is. Have, that it can just make one, like, not, you're not the kind of person someone wants as an enemy, right? Virgo moons don't forget shit either. Um, and also Virgo moons sometimes can, they're also very much about service. They're very much about like some one of the issues of Virgo moons is that they can sometimes be like, use logic towards emotions too much. But when they're able to, feel themselves as a part of the greater whole, that's when everything changes. That's the best. But they can sometimes be a little bit anxious and overthinking and overly perfectionist. So, but they do have this great need to be useful and to do things that they feel like are really, really for the better of the world, right? Um, but back with the Mars stuff, it can just be hidden anger. So we have an idea that there's something that you're dealing with from past lives, or a past life, that probably needs some level of surrender. And you can get clues as to how you know your unconscious reactions this lifetime. Sun square Mars, that can lead to kind of like, just anger and stuff coming, just popping out if one's unbalanced. There's one other thing about the Mars one where there can be like a feeling of like being kind of like, then like led the wrong direction. Um, and like people with that can sometimes feel a little bit lost. Um, you know, in terms of action, right? And rightful action. South Node in Leo, South Node in Leo, with all that Leo energy, if there was a situation where one was too kind of invested in the ego, one second, I'm just getting something. Hold on. I'm not sure if you can hear me well right now. I don't want to say too much. Okay. So yeah, if one was in a situation where they were living too much in their ego, it can be quite difficult. And the Mars skip step can definitely be about not having had the right action, and then kind of having like, feeling lost and feeling like one's just kind of wandering. But also, it can be like being dominated by someone, and feeling like they were, where there's like this suppressed anger, um, that comes from like an unmet need for independence, right? So in relationships, it can be interesting because this energy can come out, can make someone feel a little bit entrapped. But um, on one hand, like the freedom to grow with another is desired, but then there's also that, subconscious fear of being entrapped, right? So there's that balance that's needed. Um, so relationships are something that's very karmic for you. 12th house Venus in Cancer, and most definitely the fact that it's opposite Neptune and Uranus. When you have Venus opposite Neptune, you have to watch out for the whole rose-colored glasses and love type energy. Um, you have to watch, as a Virgo moon also, the moon is obviously your emotions. It's really, really important to you know to really understand everything about your moon sign. But it's a Mercury ruled moon, so Mercury is about the mind. So it's very important for Virgo moons to create that strong like thematic connection. Like things like yoga can be really powerful, and to learn to kind of like understand emotions or energy. Um, like the idea of like being in talk therapy, and you're just talking, um, but you're not like feeling the emotions. Like it's really important for Virgo moons to really feel that. And Virgo moon, it's very magical. Virgo is very misunderstood as a sign. It's the opposite sign of Pisces. It gives you a big clue because Pisces is like, the last sign, magical energy. And I think there's, Virgo is it's earth magic, but sometimes that earth magic it's all about purity. So Virgo moon sometimes there's that obsession for purity, which is impossible. We're humans, That's why it's so divine. Wow, I just learned. I never really thought about that before. Like, or said that. Like, yeah, like the Virgo moon, it's so divine. Um, that it's so divine, but like that divine perfection is impossible. So a lot of Virgos will go that with that 100 or zero perfectionism, and then when they fall short of the 100, so it's really important as a Virgo moon to be happy. And this goes with like because like it goes within it starts with the self, and then it gets shown in relationships, right? But like Virgo moon sometimes can be so like perfectionist with themselves that when they meet a partner who falls short of their high expectations, they just hold off for perfection. And then with the Venus opposite Neptune, that can have consequences, right? That can really be difficult because no human's perfect, right? No human is possibly perfect. So sorry. Okay. Yeah, so that's really important. Hold on. Okay. So yeah, really, really important to to really take things slow in relationships. Oh, and you have Venus and Jupiter in the 12th. So mystical and psychic potential. But I'll get into that in a little bit. So yeah, like having Venus, the love language, so I see too many people with Venus, Neptune, opposition or square, jump into things. And sometimes they also can have a very like it can be very also with finances. It's really important to not make like big decisions, like to really really like before like to really take one's time, because spending can kind of sometimes people can with that can spend there can be a little bit of cloud over their judgment when it comes to spending, and just money in general, and the people that yeah, so it's important to like kind of to be very very Saturnian in that respect. But when it comes to relationships, it's all about discernment. It's all about really, really getting and getting clear with the reality of who someone is. Because there can be lots of fantasies and romantic illusions, and like people with this can get deceived a lot in close relationships. So it's very important to understand that what can happen is that Neptune, which is the planet that rules, on one end, it's very, very romantic, right? There's that big potential for like the most amazing romance and also immense creativity. Um, but yeah, there can be a struggle. It's achievable, but it's like there is often like a lot of disappointment around love and money. Um, so it starts also from like issues with self-image, right? Um, and self-worth. So that's really where one, and sometimes Virgo moons, Virgo suns so hard on themselves, right? Um, and it's often useful to like examine, okay, what is my idea of the ideal partner, right? Um, and also just knowing that, like, when you get into like, and you might be in a relationship, so like everything I'm explaining is a potential. You could be here, you could have already learned that lesson, right? I'm just telling you kind of what the potentials are, right? But a lot of times there are, disappointments early on in love. And yeah, usually it's around being blind to people's faults. And the more someone works on their self-image and how they see themselves in an accurate way, right, the better, things become. And one great way to do that is, can't find my phone. Where's my phone? Where's my phone? So this is a camera. This is a camera. 5 cameras. I didn't even know I had that many. I had 4. I don't know, why do I have 5 cameras? Why is it necessary? Did I crack it? Maybe it's not cracked. So, okay. Neptune rules cameras. So one of the biggest life hacks, film yourself. Do a daily vlog or semi-daily vlog, whatever. When you film yourself in with or talk in a mirror, whatever, that enhances you. Everything with Neptune hard aspects. Um, and the more that you get into that deep spiritual approach to life, the better, right? Um, things like dancing, alone or with people, whatever, like, and that's where that Leo energy comes in and really helps this. Anything that makes you feel beautiful, anything that makes you, that really like that you can do, that really makes you feel beautiful, is really, really good for this aspect too. So then, okay, so Venus in Cancer, love language is definitely very, very close. 12th house though, your partners will be very karmic, and there'll be different relationships that you're supposed to balance out the karma from prior life relationships. But the more, it's really, really about also like this love of like being alone, right? With the Venus and Jupiter in 12th house, you are someone that, like, when you're alone, you have most likely your deepest like healing and your this well of optimism you're able to dig into, right? Which, having Pluto and IC, kind of contradicts that in a little bit, because there is that real volcanic energy that can come up in one's life. So it's when one's alone, it doesn't really contradict it. It's really when you're alone in your spiritual, like, vibe, like kind of like in your spiritual energy, doing whatever it is that makes you feel like comfortable, whether it's just like being at home, like Cancer, Venus loves the home, loves the family. That's really important. And sometimes with the 12th house Venus, there can be too much of a love for this beautiful future. And it's really important to see the beauty in the present, and being able to see the beauty as a reflection of yourself, right? The world's beauty is a reflection of yourself. So yeah, and then Venus and Cancer also, a lot of times they have very strong emotional bonds with people, like their friends, and family and friends that they consider their family. And in love, they really want financial and emotional security. Um, so yeah, so it's kind of contradiction, because like, well, not, there's a lot of things in everyone's chart where it's like, okay, how do you balance out these kind of different energies, right? Because on one end, like the Venus in Cancer, it's in a water sign, it's very, very romantic and very, wants closeness, touch, all that stuff, right? When we have the opposite with Neptune, also that's like one of the most creative. The Venus and Neptune, it connects inspiration, right, with the ability to create art. So it's really, really high artistic and intuitive potential. It's just that one has to get past their own, understand the difference between their intuition, their imagination first. Um, so then Uranus opposite Venus, which is even closer, that is a very interesting one, because that makes someone really need space in relationships. And sometimes they can feel like yeah, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, like really feeling torn between um being your own person and kind of like the south and the north node thing, right? Between like compromise and all that. And that just it just shows that like relationships most likely need to have a level of openness. And um I don't think you could really be with someone who's like insecure. I think someone they'd have to be pretty secure with themselves, right? Because you need a lot of people who have Venus opposite Uranus, like they when like if someone tries to lock them up or control them in any way, like they start to feel like they're in jail and they dip the fuck out, you know? So sometimes it can be difficult to really commit oneself to one relationship. Um, but if they find someone who really does check those boxes, then it's it's really really good. So maybe like I don't know, the idea of sleeping in your own bedroom might be very very interesting to you with all that 12th house, right? But figure out what compromises you're able to make and which ones you're not. All right. So also another potential psychic one is Moon trine Uranus. It makes you really really good when it comes to having that freedom, that internal freedom for expressing the more unconventional um, parts of yourself, which is really, really, really good. And, it makes one kind of like not afraid to move towards that authentic purpose, that might not be like what everyone else is doing. But it is very good. Um, ooh, okay. Yes, Sun conjunct Jupiter, different signs, but still. So that is really good. So as a Leo, that adds even more expansion and optimism, and enthusiasm, right? It makes someone who really expresses themselves in like a very larger than life way. They're able to see the higher philosophy, the higher meaning. Glass is usually half full. Um, lots of zest, lots of thought of like an orange slice, zesty. I don't know. Um, so yeah, I mean, both my parents have Jupiter on their sun, and yeah, and I know a ton of people with it, and they always, like have like a certain kind of openness and adventurousness to them, and usually very, very like a very nice aura. So it's a planet of luck and expansion. So having it on your sun, people feel that. But yeah, anything with this much first house Leo is just that need to not like to always make sure you're thinking about that ratio between giving and taking, right? Are you giving, because sometimes first house Leo can take too much, um, and not realize it. Just a potential. So it's totally like awesome to do creative things and to, you know, all that. It's just that you might feel pushback from the universe when like if something's done for, the sake of ego. So Mercury rising. That means Mercury is conjunct your ascendant. So that makes communication like a big part of your life. Super curious person. I don't see this often, to be honest. Mercury rising. I haven't seen it in a long time. Really curious. Yeah, it gives that the Leo rising. It makes someone not shy. That's for fucking sure. If you're shy, then I'd be surprised. I'd be really surprised. I mean, sometimes the Virgo moon people can kind of like doubt themselves and second guess and overthink stuff, but I don't know. Like an unaspected Mercury rising, like that means that it's not being checked by other energies. Although, wait, hold up. Why is it? Why does my program not count that 7.5 degree square of Pluto? Either way, someone who communicates a lot, but um, the fact that Mercury is square Pluto, though, it's not such a close one. I want to see what different astrologers are putting for the orbs. So some people say 4 degrees. I guess what I would say about that is that it definitely gives like a lot of street smarts, a lot of intellect, but sometimes um there can be kind of like a darkness with the thoughts, but like it's not a very close square, so it's not that powerful of one, but definitely like a very, yeah, like deep thought nature, and sometimes like these very kind of intense like way of thinking about the world and way of seeing things that can lead one to kind of criticism from other people and really like intense kind of like mentally challenging interactions with people. And usually there's like one goes through like major like death, rebirth, and transformation process with their own thought processes and their own worldview throughout life, right? And sometimes they're just like two people with that are just like too deep for other people, so they learn throughout life to become more diplomatic. And also it can be associated with mental stress, um, and kind of dark thoughts sometimes. Not like emotions, more like thoughts, like cynicism. Um, but it's all meant to be transformed, and definitely makes someone want to look deep beneath the surface for answers in life, which is very resourceful, very good at researching things they're interested in. And then the Virgo moon, obviously backs that up because it gives one like that need to be organized and that emotional need to to really succeed, and once they find what they're truly interested in, they're able to go all out. um yeah, yeah. I think Mercury and Leo people sometimes can talk a lot. um um but overall they are definitely proud of like, they're proud of their way of learning, and because you have it on an angle, it makes you very sure of yourself, most likely in terms of your intellect and your very independent thinker, right? Good for networking for sure, and kind of just like really like curious about the world around you. um but yeah, like, there's just so much in your chart that's speaking to that high Leo, right? So um the more that you're able to kind of understand, because it is interesting, right, that the Leo energy, even like the ascendant is square the nodes, right? So that's interesting. um hmm. Oh wait, what am I talking about? I meant to say I see. No, no, I don't know what just got in my brain. uh my bad. um yeah, and then the sun is conjunct the south node, and it's also, so the south node ruler conjunct south node. Let's see. Yeah, so that is literally like, as a Leo sun with your sun conjunct the south node, that is literally like you were like a king or a queen or something like that. Like, I think I've only seen that once before. And yeah, I mean, so that whole thing I was saying about like the potential for like, feeling like, a sort of like, like imagine like your last lifetime, you were just used to getting everything handed to you. And then you enter this lifetime, I'm not sure what your circumstances are. You know, the one person I talked to a few years ago who had that, like, they definitely felt like that. So that is another thing to, is to really look into that and the energy there unconsciously. Okay, so I want to talk about Jupiter conjunct Chiron in the 12th house in Cancer. So your chironic pain is around family. So feeling misunderstood by your own family. lots of, karma in that realm. 12th house, it's like you have to like really face a lot of really hidden pain, right? With your Pluto in the IC, that's a big part of your mission, is to go deep into spirituality and to face a lot of kind of deep hidden pain within yourself. Jupiter on Chiron can make one a healer. It can make one really, really expand through the way in which they're able to heal themselves, and then after that heal other people. So I would not be surprised if you were someone who's some type of spiritual, like meant to be some type of spiritual healer. Now, having Mars on the midheaven where it is, like I told you, it's opposite Pluto. So that makes this opposition extremely important in your chart, right? Extremely important. So I don't know how long you've been following me, but I used to have, I had lots of posts about, most whatever placements, blah, blah, blah. So I think number one on most volcanic is Mars opposite Mars square Pluto. It creates such an intense energy inside someone that needs a physical or creative outlet, or else it just leads to a lot of anger, frustration. The energy doesn't know where to go, and sometimes people will smoke weed or something like that. Nothing against it, but sometimes like it's obviously more healthy to have that real solid Virgo moon kind of, is about the routine, right? So really having that real routine that hits the spiritual, mental, physical, everything all, you know? So there can be definitely feelings of victimization early on, and also being like very tough on yourself, and super competitive though. So it's like being able to channel that competitiveness is something is really, really hot, really, really, it's very like there's a very high purpose to that. Now, also sometimes people with this and with that Virgo moon will have very altered expectations for themselves, right? What in whatever it is. Sometimes it is like, in their passion. So it's really important. Like you have your passions. Sometimes people with this are so obsessed with their passions, that they forget about the joy in it, right? And that goes back to the Leo. The high Leo is like, I'm doing this for the fun of it, not just because of the competitiveness, which is also good. I think competition is good, right? But it's about that balance. So sometimes with this, there is a very domineering parent, or some man in the person's life kind of growing up. And sometimes it continues into adulthood, with like, people in general, superiors, whatever. So it's really important to in that potential dynamic, understanding your role. That's like where the resolution is, really understanding to not play victim, essentially, right? If that's something that comes up. But because it does make someone a badass, like it makes someone very independent, very firm, very assertive, sometimes others can react very defensively. That's why like it's really important to really kind of have that diplomatic way of kind of relating to people and stuff. But sometimes like with this and all of your fire Leo energy, it's like without intending to, you're this natural strength can actually like, it can kind of make other people feel insecure. So it's important to really look at who's around you and really pick the right people, obviously, right? Um, but it does give you even more healing power, this ability to really transmute anything, right? Um, so, it's combining like the strength of Mars and, this like Pluto is about like, obsession and one single-mindedness, determination. So being able to combine those two, right? And the fact that they're both on angles makes them even stronger, right? It makes them very strong. Like Mars is at your midheaven, so that means that you'll have a lot of power towards your career and your dharma. And because it's in Taurus, the amount of successful people that have Mars in Taurus is ridiculous. They have the power to start with your Leo rising, and Leo rising. Miko, what are you doing? Leo rising is also very good at continuing, because it's fixed fire. But Taurus, Taurus Mars is very good at the follow through. So it really comes through trial and error, you know, a lot of the lessons with this. And it's also very sexual, right? You gotta give me a kiss. I don't want to. I don't want to have just said sexual, but this is my baby daughter, Mika. Mika. Mm, okay. You wanna go? No, you don't. You're gonna stay right here. No, you're not. Yeah. So mm, yeah, lots of famous people have this have Mars Pluto aspect because it's like imagine it's just like you know it creates volcanoes, but it's like being a Ferrari. You got to or like you know one of those hard. It's like having I don't know a carriage with 9 horses. You got to figure out how to drive them 9 horses or ride them 9 horses. So okay, yeah, I think that Mars midheaven also gives a lot of self confidence in how you handle your professional life for sure. Really good for like you know, goal setting and kind of riding steady towards them. And you know, it's important not to go too hard on yourself, right, with the Pluto, and then go not going too hard on like a big thing in your chart is how every single angle has a planet or a point on it, right? So you're trying to balance out relationships in your independent single kind of like you know self-determination life and then between your internal life and internal healing you know or yeah internal life you know self-healing on kind of like your like making sure like your home life all that stuff family blah 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 the path right also making sure that that's resolved that's balanced with like the future in your outer life and your career right so it's really a big balancing act in your chart um and even for relationships, you know, it's between like the known and then also the fun and the kind of eccentric and yeah. Mhm. Oh, okay. So Mars is trining Neptune and Uranus. That's cool. That's another really good musical one and very creative. And then Uranus, you know, that just gives someone like Mars trining Uranus is just gives a very high energy level that is super good for success in anything you put your mind to. Like tons of drive. And if you think I'm saying like this whole thing about success, like go watch a random one of my readings. Just go watch a random one, see how many times I say the word success. You know, like this is definitely one of the most times I've said it in a very long time. I just want you to know that, know that. Okay. So I can't highlight enough that you are probably like here to be a healer. Now, how that happens, I don't know. It like in what way that happens, I don't know. Everyone has their own life circumstances. Sometimes when one's meant to be a healer, it doesn't happen right away. Now, I want to talk about the fact that you have no air. Um, although, yeah. So obviously you have Earth, you know, you have Venus for your water, and then you have a ton of fucking fire. Um, so no air, it makes it extra important for you to be able to communicate and be diplomatic in your communications and understand where someone else is coming from. Um, so doing breath work can be one of the best things for you, right? When you do breath work, um, it's just one of these like kind of one of these natural healing things for lacking air. Also getting into nature, um, living in or being in areas that have very good oxygen, you know, stuff like that. And, you know, just being able to work on communication skills, you know, like I was saying earlier, because there can be lots of like, I can imagine how a chart like this could have had some real firepower and some real difficult lessons early on. That's why I was like really adamant. I'm very adamant on like whatever, if you did have any big fuck ups early in life, first 30 years before the Saturn return, like that's so fucking faded. You don't choose your parents. You don't choose who you go to school with. You don't choose this, that, this, that, this, that. You have all this firepower. It's tough. Not everyone, people can be jealous of that. Like I said earlier, like it's crazy how like stuck so many people feel. And when they see people who are free and who are, you know, just in their, doing really good, it's difficult, right? Mm. Sometimes though, lacking air can be a struggle with being sociable, but I do see the Mercury rising probably helps that a lot. Um, and it can just be, yeah, it can just be hard sometimes to express oneself in the, yeah. So I think that like once again, like you do have a lot of that first house energy, and so it will help that, but it just comes back to that balance between receiving and giving. And the fact I always know someone's an advanced soul when they have their North Node in a element with no other signs in that element, no other planets in that element. So your North Node is in Aquarius air, and you have no air. So you're literally like trying to discover the air energy, right? Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. So people with those signs could be very interesting for you. All right. Pals in Cancer, that's someone who can really rely on their emotions to kind of like guide their opinions and thoughts. Very empathetic listener. Um, and then the 12th house, that's someone who can really understand spiritual teachings really well, really open third eye. Um, yeah, it's nice. And it's with Venus too. So I think that would make you wise in terms of it'll give some real like strategy around making money, um, and the kind of decisions related to love life. Sirius and Leo, that's just about like loving to play with other people and to be in your inner child, and also to give that to other people. And that's kind of like a way that you show that you care. So also encouraging and be encouraging others' creative talents, and then be encouraged for your creative talents is very huge. Um, and yeah, your sun being in either the 12th or the first, of course, like it just makes self-expression super important to you in the first and whole signs. So it is that balance between independence, but really independence in kind of like others, like there's it's a big balancing game. But in the 12th, which it's 16 degrees behind the ascendant, so to me that makes more sense. Even though I'm a whole sign astrologer, I still would look at that as 12. I think that you're meant to be like a star in like the kind of hidden realms, and really like a lot of your life is meant to be, like there is that balancing act, right? But like there is a big part of you that is meant to exist in kind of the hidden realms, like really meant to, excuse me, um, yeah, really meant to kind of go deep within your own soul, and really be of service and really be someone that gives back in this lifetime. I see that all over your chart. So the other thing about love, the asteroid of marriage, Juno in Scorpio, that's kind of like your ideal partner would have an element of, I guess you could say, emotional intensity, but also loyalty, and realness, and even like emotional intensity. And they should feel like home, right? Where like the partner should really like there needs to be that amazing level of comfort with the partner. Amazing comfort. I already talked about Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio. We have the same thing, Pluto. Yeah. So basically, like you don't want to piss you off, right? people don't want to piss you off. You know what to say to fuck people up, basically. Black Moon Lilith, it's like your self-defeating pattern. And by understanding it, you can kind of push it away and make it into a strength. So it kind of goes down to that power versus powerlessness. And if there are any feelings of abandonment, right? And any like it's really about healing the underlying shit, underlying Pluto IC stuff, whatever happened in your childhood, really, really looking at that. And healing it. Because also Pluto on the IC means it's opposite the midheavens. That means that if you don't like basically like the inner work you do has like an immediate effect, or just not immediate, but it has an effect on your your midheaven, on your highest potential. So all right, let's pop these babies open. Actually, wait, where's Vesta? Vesta is with midheaven and Taurus in 10th house. So yeah, last one of those ones. Yeah, Vesta on the midheaven just makes them super dedicated to their career, very hard worker. You gotta watch out to not be too perfectionist in your career. Like because that can definitely with Mars give one like make one a workaholic, especially with a Virgo moon too. So it's really important for you to have that vision of like, okay, what am I doing? What is the true importance of what I'm doing? What is the real reason for it? And really have that connection to it. Um, and yeah, Vesta Taurus, you can work in a very like persistent, steady manner. A great worker. Um, Also with the moon in the second house, I forgot to kind of talk about that a little bit. It can just make like like it's really important to not be too attached to money. Yeah, money is important, but if one's too obsessed with money with a second house moon, like the fortunes will fluctuate up and down. So the more one can disattach from that or have that balance between physical and metaphysical, it's just better for that, you know, because there can be like ups and downs economically that really are meant to kind of trust someone's faith and trust someone's real values. So the more like internal, emotional, not emotional, internal, I guess internal values, internal not internal values, internal I can't think of the words. Just the more strategies, the more skills, the more internal resources. I don't know why the fuck I couldn't think of the word resources. The more internal resources you have, like meditation, when things are stressed, like meditating, breath work, like the more things like that you can have, um, the better, right? Things that you have where it's like you don't need help from anyone else. You have that within yourself. And like, of course, the moon Virgo I already talked about, that strong somatic, psychosomatic link. And when you're Virgo moons, when they're working too much and when they're too perfectionist, they can get sick, right? When they're under too much stress, when they stress themselves out, they get sick, right? So yeah, and a lot of times they experience their mother is quite perfectionist and sometimes strict. All right, let's see here. Ooh, look at you. Okay, so I'm not like super big on most asteroids, but lust, fuck. My girlfriend has that. I have a lot of friends who have that. I'm just gonna say that is the and by the way, I have no idea what you look like. I have no fucking idea what you look like. I have zero idea. I have not messaged you. I have not looked at anything ever. I'm just telling you, lust is the sexy asteroid. That's what it is. And I've seen it in females' charts, especially on the ascendant, on the Venus. Woo! It literally can create obsession. And it can create like a very erotic kind of energy. And I don't like talking about that. It's kind of just makes I don't know. It's weird, but yeah, that one popped out right there on your ascendant. So and on your Mercury. So it could even be something like with that reflected in your communications as well. Who knows? Also, your part of fortune is the second house in Virgo, so that's like you in your flow state is when you are detaching from other people's values, and really set on your own spiritual values. Um, and also Virgo, you're at your best, greatest happiness, greatest flow state is found in kind of that organization that we talked about, and when you're being of service to humanity. Okay. Well, that good. Ooh. So yeah, you literally could be someone who's meant to be a healer, and also you're someone who has like amazing. Oh, you have wow. Okay, you could even be an astrologer. You have Uranian conjunct Jupiter. That's like the asteroid of astrology. Um, and also you have Amor with Jupiter, which is my favorite asteroid because it relates to unconditional love, right? So you'd have this like massive ability to have like an instant 12th house. So it's like for humanity, for like real deep unconditional love for people. And then Industria is on Chiron, which obviously Chiron is a healer. So you literally could be someone who could be some type of healer professionally. All right, let me pull this. Another thing is having North Node with descendants. There's definitely going to be a big connection. Like it could not be like I could not think of a chart where your love life is more faded. I mean, like North Node conjunct descendant, Venus in the 12th house, Juno on the IC. There's more I can't think of, but like the point is that you're gonna have the right partners come in your life the right times, and these are the people that are gonna really be the right souls for you to grow on your North Node journey. So yeah. So that's it. So let me know about the so you have the reading and follow up. Nearly every single person does the following. They add the current astrology, which I would give you a $50 reduction on if you're interested. And what that ends up being is instead of just like the hour, right? The hour follow up, which you have regardless, right? Um, live, yeah. It's uh current astrology, and I do everything, right? So that's most astrologers, they'll have a different reading for each one. I do every single one: solar return, progressions, transits, house ingress, solar arc, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah. Everything. And we so first hour we talk about your chart and the follow up, and then seamlessly move into usually it's like 3 hours total. The next 2 after that being about the current astrology, the year ahead, because there's this that never changes. You get this done once, it stays the same. And then there is your current astrology, the current energy, what's happening right now. So let me know if you want to do that, and just take your time with this and let me know about the follow-up. And yeah, thank you for being patient. Appreciate you. Ciao.